Welcome back. Today we're discussing the aftermath of working in the sex industry. So ladies, can you tell us how your personal life and your personal relationships especially were affected after leaving the sex industry?
Well, I was really distorted. I didn't understand, one, who I was, like I'd been this different character.
Wow.
So who am I and how do I actually respond to different things? And so for me, and then, my mum rocking up at this brothel was like, I'm her daughter. She's been checking the death notices for my name, but I don't actually know who I am. So for me it was, I had to rebuild relationship with my parents, but it started with rebuilding relationship with myself. I had a very dysfunctional view of men and carried that through my first marriage that ended in divorce years later, because it was like, I don't know who I am and I don't know how to relate to you. So that was a really tough journey that I think I'm still working out.
Bronwyn, so this is a little bit off topic, but just in case there's a viewer out there who's like me and may not have a complete understanding of the sex industry, how in the world do brothels even exist? Like, why are they not completely illegal all around the world? How is that possible? I
agree. Unfortunately, when you increase the demand, you have to increase the supply. So I actually worked in an illegal brothel. 2 years after I got out of the industry, it was legalized in the state that I come from in Australia. And so when they legalized it, they thought, well, we're going to put, laws around it, and there's going to be taxes, and it's going to change the industry. And it didn't. It increased the demand and increased the supply.
Yeah.
So for us, that's one of the battles that we fight in Australia.
Man, you're amazing. So Chrissy, what about you? How are your personal relationships affected when you left the industry?
Well, immediately when I left, my boyfriend and I broke up, and I moved out on my own. So that was really devastating to me. Even though it was my choice, I knew I couldn't live with him anymore, and I knew I had to just, sever that relationship. And then I didn't really have girlfriends. I had friends in the business, but they were more like, when you see each other, you're just like, oh my God, you're so pretty, so good to see you. And you just, that's as, deep as it gets.
Yeah.
And it took a few years for me to actually learn how to be a friend. And in my beginning relationships with women, where I was just taking whatever they could give me. I couldn't give back yet. So it took a number of years to get to a point where I can give back and love other people. And that took a while.
Yeah.
And then relationships with men, I tried dating in the beginning when I really wasn't ready, and it didn't work out. And then about 2 years ago, I didn't date for a year, and then I took an actual fast from men. And so
And what made you do that? Like, take a fast?
The relationships that I was having with men still weren't healthy, and I wasn't healthy. So the reason I made the choice is because I realized the kind of man that I want, and I wasn't the kind of girl that man would want. And so I realized I needed to do work on me. And so when I took the fast, it was only supposed to be 6 months. But then after the 6 months, I felt like God told me to do it another 6 months. So I went a whole year without dating and not hanging out with men at all. Like, I had to make a clean break. And so that has actually led me into a very healthy relationship with somebody, and I just got engaged. So.
That's very exciting. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah, and it's a healthy, really healthy relationship.
That's so awesome. And what about you, Harmony? How about your personal relationships?
Well, like Bronwyn, I had created this whole other persona. I was Monique, and so part of it was just figuring out who I am, separate from who Monique was. But I was so angry at men. I couldn't imagine that there was a man on the planet who was different than the men I encountered every night in the strip club. And it was also really hard for me to trust women, because I didn't have a healthy relationship with my mother, and even felt like in my relationship with my mom, there was this element of competition, that her boyfriend was going after me. And then in the sex industry, it's like we're all going after the same wallets and the same money, and it's like, but at the same time, they're the only other people who understand you. So I had to start from scratch and figure out how to relate to everybody. And by the time I left the industry, I didn't know how to be in a relationship without it being sexual. I was sleeping with my girlfriends too, because that's how I knew how to have intimacy. So here I come into this community, and nobody wants to have sex with me. And I'm like, what do I do now? And why would anyone want me for anything else? And so it's been a real journey, and I feel like, much like Bronwyn, I still feel like 14, 15 years later, I'm still learning how to be a good friend and how to be intimate and who are safe people to be intimate with, and I know we're gonna talk about that another time.
Absolutely. And so next up, our panel is going to answer some of your questions.